Hey robot makers, do you want to learn how to vibe code a flight computer using Microsoft VSCode Copilot? Then this is the show for you. So let's dive straight in. My name is Kevin. Companies we build robots, bring them to life with code, and have a whole load of fun along the way. Right, let's see if we can get over to, there we go, to our, only got a couple of slides today, so this should be pretty quick to go through. I'm going to get straight into the actual coding piece. So this is part 3 of our drone project. So we've been looking at what parts we needed. We had a bit of a look at some of the code pieces. We designed a PCB last week. I finished that during the week last week, sent it off to PCBWay to be manufactured, and I'll give you an update on that very shortly. So today we're going to be looking at how we can really make this drone come to life with some additional coding. So not actually powering the drone as it says there, we're going to be looking more at vibe coding. So it's an extra little step. So yes, we completed the PCBs, like I said, sent them off to PCBWay, hence the 2 hats that I was wearing before. Manufacturing only took about 24 hours. It's quite a straight, simple design. It's only got 2 layers to it, and it's quite a small size board as well. So they're due to arrive on Tuesday morning, so hopefully I'll get them and we can start building them out. So as soon as they arrive, I'll drop in all the little components. It's going to be a real quick solder job on that one, so I might do a little midweek video for you on putting that together. But then we get to actually test it. So let's create some code today to see if we can bring this thing to life. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our flight computer software, which is going to run our Raspberry Pi Pico, using this technique called vibe coding. So I've been playing around with Microsoft Visual Studio Code, or VS Code, and they have this Copilot agent mode. I want to show you that today. It's really, really good, if especially if you're already a programmer and you know how to code. This can really help. If you're not so hot on what code to create, this can actually get you started pretty quick. So we'll go through some of the GitHub features as well, such as the issue tracking and projects to manage our project, so we can actually see and remember where we're up to as we come back to this at other stages. And we'll actually code up using this conventional style with our Copilot as our assistant. Let's see how far we get with this today. Right, and if you like what I do, ignore that little bit at the beginning that set me off a little bit there. If you like what I do, please give this video a like. Definitely leave me a comment if you've used any kind of agent to help you code already. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It means so much to me. And we do go live every single Sunday at 7 o'clock British summertime, or GMT, which is ever the time of year, because it is live. So you can definitely help join the show, and you can hang out while we do a bit of coding. So let's get straight to this then, shall we? Without further ado, so let's get into some vibe coding. So I'm just going to load up Visual Studio Code, and then I'm going to share my screen. Good, that's working okay. So this is the project repository that we've been working on when we did all the code for the testing out the components. There is, for example, the test 5 that I created to test out how that accelerometer and gyroscope can work. So we've got some of that code already ready to go, but I'm not going to be using that today. I'm going to be using this new technique. So let's get started. So this is Visual Studio Code, and I do subscribe to the Copilot. You get this little frog thing down here, and there's a new mode that they've introduced. If we go to the chat window here, if I press Command, Option and I, you get this little window which is just where I am. So I'm going to move me, how do I do this? I think I have to do this in 3 goes. I'm going to move me up here. So I think I have to move me, I have to move the little surround, and then we have to move my actual text. There we go. So I'm just going to live up here for the rest of this little video. Right, so agent mode sits off to the side here, and as it says there, you can edit your files in agent mode. Copilot will automatically use multiple requests to pick up files, edit, run terminal commands, which is really cool, and iterate on errors. So if it sees an error when it's running the code, it can actually help fix that error. So Copilot is powered by AI, so mistakes are possible. Review your output carefully. And bear in mind, we're actually creating a flight computer, so it is quite important that we check our work as we go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just show you, we were also using ChatGPT 4.1 as the agent that's running behind this. So there's a bit of interaction between ChatGPT and this agent. You can use lots of other ones as well, but you can see there this 0 times thing means that this isn't actually going to count towards my premium request limit, so I can actually issue as many of these as possible, but it does also mean that it can potentially slow down. So we can use ChatGPT 5 for example, or 4.1 for what we're doing is fine. It's the fact that we've got this agent environment that's really, really cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is just copy a bit of text over here into my clipboard. I'm just going to paste this in. So what I'm going to ask the agent to do is create some folders. So let's create the folders to organize our project. We want a design one. This is where our design documentation goes. The docs is where our epics, features and user stories go. And then tests, we're going to have some test scripts in that folder there. So I'm just simply going to click on run. And what we should see is we get some folders created on the left hand side. It's like we're directing what we want this project to look like. So it says there that it's created. Maybe I should move me off a little bit to the there, just so you can see what this chat window says. There we go. So it says created design, created docs, created tests, and the folders design, docs and tests have been created as well. So we're off to a good start there. Right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to create our first epic. So an epic in software development is the name of a kind of a big feature, a big set of features for this particular project. So I'm going to say create our first epic, and with that little hashtag there is just a bit of markdown, and Copilot knows how to use markdown, which is really great. So I'm going to say build the flight computer for our MicroPython powered drone. It will use a Raspberry Pi Pico 2W for the flight computer and has the following sensors. For the IMU, it's got a GY91. It's got a magnetometer, which is the GY273. It's got a GPS, which is just here. This is one of these Neo 6M compatible ones. And the drone will be controlled using a Bluetooth gamepad. So I'm simply going to tell it to do that. I think there's an extra bit on here. We want to include some safety features such as stopping the drone and hovering in place if the Bluetooth connection drops and connecting automatically. So I'm just going to click on that. And what I want it to do is just understand that that's our epic. So it's put that into one of our docs, which is great. You can see there, let's see, it's still iterating through this as well, which is great. So there you go, your first epic has been created, epic flight computer.md, that's the markdown file, with proper formatting. Let me know if you want to add any feature stories or the documentation next. So this is really important for when we're creating open source projects and we're sharing our code publicly. People need to know what the features are, how to use them and all that kind of stuff. So this can really help with the documentation side. So I'm just going to grab another little prompt here, just paste this in. So this prompt here, it says the code for the IMU G91 is available in test 05 in the archive folder, which we looked at a moment ago. And I've said, start by reading our epic. I want to break down the epic into individual features. Each will be documented in the docs folder as a separate markdown. We want to create the tests in our test folder, commit and push to GitHub. So there we go. It's given us the actual command to run in the terminal. So if I click on continue, it's going to run that command and it's going to actually push those up to our GitHub repository. Now I have got that open on another window here. If I go over here and give this a bit of a refresh, because this is before I actually ran any of that, let's just reload the page. And let's see, we've got the docs and the test folders there as well. And if we go into docs, we can see that we've got that epic for the flight computer. So that's there in our GitHub repository. Now, one of the things that we often do in software development is we create issues in GitHub. And issues are, they can be features. If we click on the labels, you can kind of see the kind of things we can do. So we can have bugs, documentation, duplicate, enhancements, epics, features, stories, and have we got epic stories? Have we got features? Yes, we have got features there as well. So I think epics, features and stories are three labels I've added to this. So what I want to do is go back to Visual Studio Code, and we want it to create for each of these features that is broken out. We want it to create some code for that. So if we go over to, let's see, let me see where we are. So in the, I'm trying to find the actual file system there. So Pico drone, there we go. So we've got, let's just open these out a little bit. So there's nothing in the design docs. We've just got the epic, and then we've got a feature, which is this IMU 91. And then we said to push that. So let's say, let's continue with this, and I'm just going to grab another prompt. I'm going to paste that down here. So this next prompt says, next create user stories for each feature and create CLI command line interface commands to add for each of these epic features and stories to GitHub, and issue them with the epic features and story tags. So we'll actually get the little tags there. And what we should see is we will get some push buttons in a minute on here to actually run these in the terminal. This is the bit I love because it's done all the hard work for us. So we click on that and it's issued a command there. And if we now go back over to here, if we click on the Issues tab and give that a bit of a refresh maybe. So it hasn't actually created those. Let me just check. Right, so you can now run a script to create these issues. Right, yes, so yes, continue. I thought it'd actually give me the commands to do that, so I'm just going to say yes, carry on with that. Now we can see there we've got the magnetometer. Let's have a look in that one. So that's one of the features. And we've got the actual individual user stories. So in software development, just in case you're not aware of this, you have an epic, which is the kind of overarching big picture. You then got hard features. So a feature such as having a sensor or having a the flight computer itself would probably be a feature, the magnetometer, and then user stories are the actual individual use cases for each of those. So we might say that we want to, respond to a remote control command for up and adjust the motors accordingly. So there we go. So it says commit and push new magnetometer features, user stories, tests, and updated CLI scripts to GitHub. If I press on that, it's going to run those commands in the terminal for me. And I think now we should be able to go over to here, give this one a bit of a refresh, and we should see, and we're still not seeing any features in there, so I would have expected them to be in there. I'm going to click on keep. This will just keep these files that we created, or we could just click on keep over there. So there we go. So it's still not done that, so I'm just going to say yes, continue. I should read the responses really rather than just jumping ahead. So this time it should actually create the buttons for each of those. So let's see what else it's doing. So yes, we've got the features, the epic, and the stories are now being created. If we look in one of the stories, for example, story 1, as a developer, I want to connect to the Neo 6M GPS module to the Pico via UART so that I can receive GPS data. And then acceptance criteria, the Pico can detect and communicate with the GPS over UART. Communication errors are logged and handled. And then story 2, as a developer, I want to parse latitude, longitude, altitude, speed, and time from the GPS data that I can use for navigation. And again, it's got their GPS data parse and output for debugging. Data is available as a regular interval, e.g. 1 Hz, so 1,000 times a second. Story 3, as a developer, I want to make the GPS location data available to my flight control system so that the drone can use it for navigation and telemetry. And then again, we've got some acceptance criteria there. Location data is accessible by other modules. Data is updated in real time. And then story 4, as a developer, I want to handle GPS errors gracefully so that the flight computer remains robust. An acceptance criteria for that: GPS read failures do not crash the system. Errors are logged and retried. Okay, and then over here it says, let's have a read through this. The GPS feature, user stories, and test skeleton have been created. However, the CLI scripts update failed due to context issues with the patch tool. To resolve this, I will append the GPS section to add the CLI add issues script. And then it says there, run this command in the terminal. So I'm going to click on continue. Let's see if it's done that. And then it says the GPS Neo 6 features, user stories, and test skeleton have now been created and documented. The command line script has been updated to add these to GitHub issues. All the changes are committed and pushed to GitHub. So let's go back to GitHub, give that a refresh one more time and see if we can see any issues on there. We can't still. Would you like to continue for the next feature? And the script that it's given us, let's see where that is. So has it actually run that? So that's the test script. It's the CLI issues we want to run. So let's just give that a bit of a run. CLI. So in fact, if I just say can you run the CLI add issues script for me? Oops. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button there. For me. So I'm just asking it to do this because I'm lazy, and let's just do continue. And then interestingly, it says that command not found there. So the CLI was executed, but there was no output shown. If you've got GitHub CLI installed, would you like to verify or troubleshoot? Let me know. So I do have a GitHub, I think, is it GH? Yep, GitHub is there. Let's troubleshoot. Let's see what it comes up with as an answer to this. Now, somebody described, I think it was Veeb Projects, described this technique of programming as whack-a-mole. And I found that quite interesting because, there we go, hub not found. You do have this where you go backwards and forwards, and sometimes what would be quite a trivial thing to fix seems to take ages to resolve. So let's see what's going on there. So I don't think it's hub. Should update for GH, yes. Update the code to use GH, which is the GitHub command line. So what it will do is it'll go through, and when we've got these hub commands, it should replace that with a GH instead. Let's see, and it's quite quick. So even though we're using ChatGPT 4.1, I do have a premium, no, it's a plus license for GitHub, so for ChatGPT. I do also pay, like I said, for GitHub as well. They have like a commercial license for that, so that may or may not make it a little bit more responsive. Now sometimes it can just take a little while for it to respond, but it's quite impressive how the range of things that this can actually do. So the patch failed due to the context mismatch, likely because the script is too long with many repeated sections. I will rewrite the entire script to use GH command line interface and replace all hub commands, ensuring a clean and correct. So it's doing that as we speak, even though it says working there, and we should see it update the script momentarily. And it does sometimes say this, because it's a large language model, it can't see the entirety of the file. It has like a little moving window of kind of concentration. So sometimes very large tasks, it has to break them down into smaller ones. So let's see what it's saying there. So to resolve this, you can manually replace all the hub with GH issue create. So it's actually asking me to do this. Would you like me to do this? Yes. Yep. I want you to do all the work. You're my agent. There we go. So it's given me the actual commands to run there. So let's just grab that. So let's copy that, and then let's paste that in there. Is that going to work? In fact, let's just insert into terminal. It's not happy with that. Not sure why that is having an issue there. Let's try that again. No, it's still used. Let me just copy this. Let's see if we can do that. Nope. Let's copy and let us paste. It's like it's forgetting what I've copied in there, which is really weird. So what I might do is just close that terminal and then just reopen a new terminal, see if that's any better. Let's try running that again. Nope, it's using the data that I've copied over from the previous story, so I'm not sure why that is happening. But this is the kind of thing I wanted to show you in here. So I want to show you that this is it's a different kind of technique. You don't always get exactly what you're after. So let's just try and reproduce this command here. Let's see what it's asking us to do. Can I copy that? Yes, so let me copy that one. Let's do that one. Let's do them one at a time. Let's copy that one, paste that one in there. And let's go, so what's dequote, what's that? It's just in the wrong mode. Okay, I've pasted a few issues in there. Let me just go back to here and refresh and see if we have those up. Nope, so they're not appearing in there. Let's try running that one more time. Oh, so it is actually doing that properly. Okay, let's copy all that and let's paste that into here instead. And let's shrink that window down. Again, I was speed reading rather than reading properly. So let's do bash and then CLI add issues. So couldn't add the label epic features. So that's interesting. I wonder which. And it's saying Pico drones. So that is the correct place. Let's do a git pull. Let's do, I don't know what I've got in the push thing there. Let's just add that in. I did a script for creating issues. Okay, I'm going to jump back over here and see if we have any issues created now. That's real frustrating. Let me just try that again by asking it to do that. So, oops. Sometimes if you get it to if you get into something like this, you basically just get it to rerun the command or just enter in the text again. So there we go. So would you like me to proceed with more features? Yes. It's probably going to ask me what features I want to have in here then. So let's do that. Bash CLI add features. It's weird that it says it can't find the labels. Let's troubleshoot that. It says it can't. It could not add label story. Not found. However, this label is in GitHub. Let's see what it comes up with as a response to that. So it says there the label, the error can occur if the label exists but is not recognized due to case sensitivity. Okay. Repository sync issues of the labels recently created in GitHub API cache hasn't been updated. Okay, so maybe it's a sensitivity thing case. Let's just check in here what labels we've got. I can't remember if they're in. So it's got capital F for feature, capital S for story. So let me check back on here. Yes, and I think in here, I say that epic has a capital letter, as does label, I think that is label, as does story and feature. Please correct and try again. Again, we're not touching any code at this point, we're just telling the agent to do this for us. And it has a few little things like this where it's a little bit pernickety, but we'll get there. We'll get there with a bit of patience. But we'll also see just how much we can get done in quite a short amount of time. So I'm just going to line up the next feature. So let me just grab this next piece. One-liner command. See it. I'm going to do that. There we go. So it's created a little one-liner for us. Let's do that. Let's see now if we actually get the correct labels. Yes, the labels look correct now. So let's run that again. See if we actually get them. Ooh, so we've got issues being created. So if I now go over to here into our issues, whoop, we've got some issues. So we can see our epic, which is our build the flight computer. There it is. And we can also see that it's been labeled as an epic, but it hasn't been assigned to anyone, so we can assign that to me. We can even add this to a project. I don't think we have a Pico drone project, so let's add it to that. So yeah, that's the one we want. Yep, that's the one. And then we can even set the status to backlog. And the milestone, we can actually create milestones. I think we do that in the, is it in the issues or is it in projects? It's in issues, there we go. So we can create a new milestone, and this is kind of like, what do we want to achieve in this particular thing? So let's call this one live stream edits. You can even choose a date as well if you wish, so let's go for the 17th. Create that milestone, and that now has 0% complete. So if we go back to our issues, let's go into some of these stories. We've had quite a few now. We can add me, we can add it to that project, Pico drone. We can say that that is backlog. We can say that the milestone is live stream edits, and then we can say that, is that everything? I think that's everything on there. So let's go back to issues, let's have a look on there. So you can see we've got little me over there. We can see that that's a story, and we can even see that it's now in live stream edits, and we can do that for the rest of our features, stories and epics as well. So it looks like it's added all the features, stories and epics, which is good. We can go to our projects tab, and the more things that we add to this, we then get this kind of backlog, ready, in progress, review, and it's kind of a Kanban board. Oops, go back there, sorry. And then let's have a look at next iteration, prioritize backlog. There we go. So we could put that epic into ready. We could also do the same with our story. And if we go to the current iteration, does that appear in there? Not yet. And also we're going to have this roadmap as well, so we can use this to kind of plan out the work. This is more useful if you've got teams of people working for you, but we just have one person with an agent. But I wanted to show you that because that's a really good way of just managing the work that we are going to be doing on this project. So if I jump back to me and jump into the Pico drone repository, there we go. And you can follow along with this as well. So you can also see that we've got this readme. We haven't got a readme in there, so that's what we're going to do next. Let's just grab this command. Let's go back to our agent and let's paste in, create a readme file with an overview of the project so far. We've not even created any code yet, so let's see how we go with this. So Holly says, telling my hobby about this. Isn't it amazing? It's like having, that looks massive. Let me just reduce that down in size. Yeah, isn't it amazing? When I was playing around with this, I was creating a little project management tool, and I worked through quite a few iterations with this, and I was just blown away with how impressive this is. This is agent. Now I do believe ChatGPT has an agent, which is similar, but this is built straight into VS Code, which makes it really amazing. Okay, so it says here readme has been created. Let's just push that one. So let's say created readme. Let's just commit that and push that up, and then let's go back to here and give this a bit of a refresh to see what our project looks like so far. So there we go. Pico drone flight computer. This project is building a MicroPython powered flight computer for a drone using a Raspberry Pi Pico 2W, which is what we told it in the epic. The system integrates multiple sensors and modules to provide real-time flight control, navigation, and safety features. And there we go. So overview, flight computer is the Pico 2W, running MicroPython. We've got the IMU 91, which is, just grab this here, so my little breadboard. The purple one is the GY91, and the little blue one next to it, that's the magnetometer, that's the GY273, although it's probably a misnamed one. And the GPS module, I've actually got a whole host of these, but I think this is one I'm going to be using. So this is the Neo 6 compatible one. And in the drone, this is why I've sent off the PCB. The wiring was getting like hellishly complicated and messy, and it did lift off the desk when I powered this up, proving that it's gonna fly. However, because it wasn't being controlled anyway, it just kind of flipped over and then started just chewing up the desk and my hand when I went for it. So what I'm trying to show you here is these little, these are the DRV8833s. And we're going to be controlling this with a Bluetooth gamepad. So that's a PCB that already exists. I'm not sure if I've got that one to hand, but I've got a prototype one I can show you there. So the real ones are, I've got black colour. This one was an early version that I created, but it does actually work using a Pico. Okay, then we've got project structure, docs, test, design and archive. I'm going to show you the testing. This is really quite cool. Features, progress. So project structure and documentation folders created, epics and features for the IMU, magnetometer and GPS, user stories and skeletons for each feature, and the command line scripts to add all epics, features and stories as GitHub issues with correct labels, and then how to use. So that's our README file created. We've not created any actual code yet, so let's do that next. So let me just grab this next prompt. I'm going to paste that in there. So this prompt says, next, create user stories for each feature. We've done that. So, sorry, I need to do the next one, which is that prompt there. And did I include that? There we go. So we've already done that one. Let's just replace that. So run the CLI. In future, let's just remove that. In future, just ask for these to be run from here rather than creating a Python script. So I don't really like the way that it created that CLI add issues thing. I want it to just come up with a little button you can press and it'll run it. So that will tell it to do that. And then create modules for each part of our code. Keep this modular. Keeping this module will keep the code easy to maintain going forward. Let's start reading the sensors and then finish with the first draft of the flight computer. So let's see what it will do. That's quite a big command for it to think about there. But let's see what happens. But it's actually running the test that's going to be quite cool. So we're going to have a look at the tests in a second. So at the moment the tests are just a skeleton. You can see that says pass, so it's actually not going to do anything. They're probably all going to succeed. But we can see it's now created some actual code. So we've got the IMU GY91. So there we go. And that's based on that test 5 that we tested last week to get some actual sensor data. The magnetometer code, I think similarly, that's probably from our archive. We did create one of those last week as well. But then there's probably some new code that's going to be created. So the GPS one. There we go, got a GPS class that it's created there. Now we will have to change the pin numbers, but I'm hoping that it's done this in such a way that we can actually just pass in the pin numbers that we actually want there. Mute that sound a second. Okay, so let's have a look at the flight computer software itself. So the main flight computer module for the Pico drone project integrates IMU, magnetometer and GPS modules for sensor fusion and control. Awesome. So there we go. So it's importing I2C, UART and pin, importing time, importing all the modules, connecting up I2C to pin 0 and pin 1, which is correct. UART is on pin 4 and 5. I think I use pins, is it 16 and 17? So on the, I grab my Pico here. So there is on the bottom right hand side of the Pico, there's a couple of pins there that you can typically use for UART. So not all the pins can be used for UART, I think. So I've used those ones on my actual PCB. So we'll have to change it for that. But we're going to try and run this code without actually running it on a Pico and see what happens, because we're going to get all kinds of weird code problems. And I'm going to see if we can create some kind of test harness around that, just so that we can test the logic of the code. So that looks great. I'm going to click on keep, and this has got the keeping of all these different changes to each of these files. So if I do that, it's kind of accepting the changes that we want. And what we can also do is we can check and see, has our README been updated with these new features. So let's say update the tests and documentation for these latest changes. Isn't this just so cool? So it's going to be working on that. Just wish it was a tiny bit faster. I'm not complaining too much, but quite impressed with what it can do. Cool. So it looks like it's updating a few things there. So it says it's created the tests for us. Let's go into our test scripts and see. So testing the flight computer. There we go. Dummy URT, dummy I2C. It's even anticipated the fact that we're going to be running this, and it's using this Python test unit. So this is a full Python 3 rather than MicroPython testing, but we can actually use this to test our code. So Hill says there, I'm not sure I'd let Copilot fly anything. Well, that's the whole point of this. What can it actually create? Is this going to be any good? So face blue, wide eyes. It is like a what? This is crazy. Okay, so it has it's still working on that. It's reading that test GPS. I'm going to ask it to run the tests in a minute, and we will see how well they fare. We're going to get all greens, or we're going to get some reds. And if we do get some reds where it's failed, you can actually see the agent see that. So there we go. The test and the documentation have been updated for your new modular sensor and flight computer code. All the test files and use dummy hardware interfaces and match the new structure. Documentation for the modular approach also been added to modular code. So and then it says, if you want any further tests or add any modules or need help running the test, let me know. Okay, so I'm just going to say keep all them. I'm going to push these changes. So added new tests. Let's just push that up. And then I'm going to say run the tests. Run the test suite. Let's call it. And let's see what happens now. It should create a little button. There we go. So Python 3-m unit test, which is the name of this module that all these tests have been created in. And that will run, say, discover and then test. So everything in the test folder, it will run. And there we go. So we've got an issue. So it says. If it didn't run expected due to the incomplete or interrupted command in the terminal, please ensure the terminal is ready and rerun the commands. So let's just rerun that again. And then so if I paste in that error message, I did expect it to have an error message, to be fair. So let's just grab that, paste that in. And this is just like when you would normally go into ChatGPT and paste in an error message of any kind, and it just figures it out. There we go. So let's see what it's come up with there. So your tests are failing because the machine module is only available in MicroPython, not standard Python. So we need some kind of test stub. To run these tests on your development machine, you need to mock or remove the machine imports. I think for this we will mock that. Wrap the from machine imports in a try except block. I think I'd like to mock this up. So create a mock machine Python file for use with testing. So it should create a machine.py with a kind of stub code just to make it pass the test. So there we go. A mock machine py has been created. To use this in your test, you'll need to import mock machine. So let me know if you want to automate this. Automate this, of course. Always want to automate it. Want to get this to do all the code for us. Now we do need to check through this code and make sure that we agree with how it works. Let's see what it's doing now. So let's have a quick look in there. So it's got rid of machine, and then it says try from machine. If it doesn't work, then try from mock machine. Okay, that looks good. That looks fine. Let me know if you encounter any issues. Let's run that again. So yep, we've got another issue. So index out of range. That's an interesting one. Let's grab that. It's probably to do with the mock not being set up correctly. It's probably my guess. Let's have a see what it says. The input error is now resolved, but your test failed because of an index error. This is because your dummy mock returns only 2 bytes, but read BMP to 80 requires 3 bytes. How to fix this? Update your dummy I2C read from memory in your test. Would you like me to do this? Yes. I'll automatically do this. It's quite cool. We've reached the stage now where it can figure out what's wrong with the code and then fix it itself. So really like this. Okay, let's try this again. So let's just up arrow, discover tests. So ran 8 tests, all okay. So it looks like, oh, failed 2. Let's see what's going on. Let me just run that again. Ran 8 tests, and it looks like they all passed successfully. So that's great. So let's say all tests passed. Let's just save them changes there. So we are trusting that these tests are working properly, but the real way will be when we get the PCB boards back and we can load on real hardware and run these tests on there. So yeah. Okay, so that's quite a bit of code that's in there. Let's see if we can get it to figure out how to use the gamepad code. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to me for a second. I'm just going to find on my computer where the folder is for the gamepad code. I'm just going to paste that in there. So gamepad.py. Trying to think, what project would we use this on? I think it was the BurgerBot one, wasn't it? So gamepad. Let's see if I can find that. Gamepad, okay, let's go for that. I'll show you my screen in a second. I just wanted to find where it was in here. So gamepad.py. There we go. Okay. So what do I need to do there? Do I just need to grab? So I found my gamepad folder, and I've got this test gamepad.py. So I think that's all we need to run it. So if I grab that code, let's just grab that code there. In fact, we can probably just drag and drop that test gamepad into the root. Let's do that, and then say add context, files and folders. So let's add that test gamepad. Let's just tell it I've added test gamepad.py, which is a demo program to show how the Bluetooth remote works from the drone's perspective. Can you update our flight computer with the Bluetooth gamepad code? Let's see how it fares with that. Okay. And it's quite cool that you can just give it that kind of quite light code, quite light words, and it will figure it out. So there we go. So it's imported gamepad server. It's saying print the the XYZ, gyroscope XYZ, the temperature, altitude, pitch roll, heading, latitude, longitude, and altitude GPS, which is pretty impressive. It's adding in there the drone action, so up, down, left, right, blah blah blah. I'm going to say keep all that, and let's see what it says. The flight computer has been updated to integrate Bluetooth gamepad support for an async event loop similar to your demo. It will now monitor the gamepad inputs and print out drone actions. It will also read and print sensor data. If the gamepad module is not available, it will run the sensor task. Let me know if you want any to refine any other drone logic. So let's have a look in there again in our flight computer. Let's see. So we've got there 109 lines of code so far that it's created for us. So we've got that block there, either swapping out the real machine or the mock machine. We've got the importing all these modules for our sensors, and then it's trying to import the gamepad server if that's available. So we'll definitely need to have, I jump back to here, we'll definitely need to have that gamepad.py in there as well. Let's just add that in, and I think we also need to have that OLED in as well. So again, we can just add context. Let's add some files and features. So let's add that, and also that. I've added can't type. I've added in the gamepad.py and what was the other one? SSD 1306.py, which will need to be copied to the Pico for it to use gamepad. So it might just read through that. That's typically what it does. It will look through the new code that you've added in. So the files now been and are present in your project and we're ready to be copied to the Pico. These are required for the Bluetooth gamepad support and the OLED display functionality. To deploy to your Pico, copy the following files. That's good. You can use a tool like Thorny, Ampy or RShell to copy these files to your Pico. Ooh, so that sounds good. Let me know if you want a deployment script. Yes, please. And update the README file too. That's the best bit. The fact it can do your documentation for you based on the changes it's made. It's just genius. There we go. It's got a nice deploy file. So that's going to mount RPI2, and it's going to copy the files, and it's going to say deployment complete. That's pretty neat. So that's another little test script. So maybe we want to get it to tidy up our scripts and have a scripts folder for all these bits and pieces. So I'm going to add that in as well. So can you create a scripts folder and move the shell scripts into there and update the documentation. Okay. It's going to get it to run that as well. Notice as well it creates these restore checkpoints. So this is kind of like you're working with an AI agent, and it needs to be able to remember the context of all this. So this is like session information that's remembering for you, so we can always go back to there. You can even give this, like, you know, responses just to say that you're happy with the outputs you've been given from the ChatGPT model. So I think I set this up when you set up the agent, you can choose which one you want to use. So I could change that, like I said, to ChatGPT 5, but that will use one of the kind of tokens, the credits that I've got. We might try that in a second, but I don't think it's, for this kind of use, it's no better to do that. Okay, so that is moved the scripts, I think. Yep, we've now got a new green scripts folder. There we go. And I like the way that we've kept all the bits of our project separate to make it so that it's more maintainable in the future. We could have just had this create the entire thing in one big file, but that would probably make it very difficult to maintain. I'm just going to say keep all those. I'm going to go back over here and then say updated readme and tidied scripts. Push that, and we can go back over to here, and let's just give this a bit of a refresh and see what we have now. So there we go. Project structure, it's included our scripts for the shell scripts. It's included the deployment. So there we go. That's looking great. And what we can also do in here is we can go into our issues and we can start looking at the ones that we have created. So there was a story about parsing GPS data. So I think that one is actually complete. We have that code now, so we can close that issue. We can actually add that to that project as well, which is the Pico drone project, and also that milestone, which is the live stream edits. We can also just assign that to ourselves, even though it's closed. We can go back to the existing open ones. We can also handle GPS errors gracefully, so let's just check for that. I think that's in there. Let's go to our flight computer, so a quick look for the GPS stuff. It's probably in the GPS module actually, let's have a look at that. See, I'm not sure we can say that that's been achieved yet. It does have like a try and accept, but it's not logging the issue. So let's ask it that. So this is that story there. What's the story being completed? Can we close the issue? Let's see what it says on there. Asking it to evaluate whether it's met its own acceptance criteria for that. It's not fully complete, so there we go. It does catch exceptions if it fails, which is good. However, the loop will run forever if no valid data is received and does not log or handle repeated failures, nor does it retry and back off with it. So there we go, that's good. There's no logging or explicit error handling for UART, read failures or malformed data, and the test does not cover these scenarios. Would you like me to implement these? Guess what? Yes. Apparently, when people are being polite to large language models, it wastes so much energy, like so much extra energy, because it's having to parse the please and the thank yous. However, I find that you get better responses back if you're polite. You get more polite responses back. It tries to match your mood, your level of politeness back. So there we go. It's now updating the tests. That's quite interesting to see what it's doing there. So it's replaced that get location with a much better, with some logging as well. So do we have logger in? I don't think there is a logger module in MicroPython, so we might need to get it to create that for us. Allow the test to run? Absolutely. Definitely run the test and see what happens. Continue. There we go, so it's run the test has passed. The story handle GPS errors gracefully is now fully implemented. So we can now go back to here and we can say that has been done. So yes, we can say that is done. And we can also close out that issue too. There we go. So we've cracked through quite a few scenarios there. So what we need to do next then is go through each of these stories and ask it if these have all been completed. Can you check through the open issues and close if they are complete? Let's see what it can do for that. I'm not sure how much interaction it has though. There we go. GitHub issue list, state open, limit 100. There we go. So it's got that list. It takes that output from the window, and there we go. Fetch web page. Yep, continue. It's going to fetch a web page. I'm going to check for that. Continue. And it's doing it for each of these individual issues. I'm just going to let it keep doing that. Continue. Allow. Always allow. That looks like quite a dangerous command. Let's run that. So it's now running the code to close out all those issues. So we can go back over to Safari, we can hit refresh, reload page, and we should see now that we're getting more closed. Eventually more of them will be closed, I think. Maybe it's not quite got there yet. There we go. Would you like me to close all these issues marked as complete? Yes. I thought it was doing that. That maybe wasn't as explicit with my previous yes. There you go. Done. Let's go back to here, hit refresh, reload page, and we should have a lot more closed ones. So what's that say there? Arguments accepted, received 11. Alright, so it's not happy with that. Let's just, there we go. It already read the error message and it was okay, I know how to do this. There we go, so it's closing the issues. Now if we go back, oops, and we refresh, you should see there's a few more closed. There we go, 6 are closed, 10 are open. Let's give that another refresh. 7 open, 9 closed. Let's give that a final refresh. There we go, so it's nearly done all the issues. Very impressive. All the completed issues have been closed on GitHub with the note referencing the code base and the test history. That's pretty impressive. Let's go and have a look into one of those. So if we go and refresh that, let's go into the closed ones and let's go to one of those down there. Let's have a look at this one. So test coverage, unit test for the sensor readings functions, and then completed as implemented in testing code base. See commit and test history for details. That's pretty impressive. And again, we can just add that to our Pico drone project and also to that live stream edits one, and we can just say that that is done. Assigned to me. Excellent. Cool. So let's go back to our code. Let's see if there's anything that's not been committed. Let's added tests. So now we've actually got on here some PYC files. I don't really want to upload those. These are PyCache files. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my git ignore file and I'm going to say, I think they're underscore PyCache or .pyc. If I save that and I go back to that, it should actually remove them. We can actually just, if it doesn't remove them, discard them. And similar with that one, we don't want to include them in our, it just takes some extra space. It's a binary file, they could be generated. There we go, added tests, commit. Okay, so let's say update the documentation with the changes and progress, including the README. There we go. So I'm so excited to get the PCBs back from PCBWay. We'll be able to actually run this code and see what happens. So very, very excited about this. Okay, let's see what it's doing now. So it's just reading through all the changes that it's made. It's quite impressive that it can read through multiple files and understand the context of all that, and then summarize and update things like the README files. There we go. We've got all that extra progress added there. So let's say updated README. I'll wait for it to finish. There we go, commit that. So we now go back to our project page on GitHub. Let's go back to the code. Let's scroll down, let's see what progress we've made so far. So all GPS and features storage completed and closed. Final review and error handling of the IMU magnetometer and close epic when all features are complete. So this is amazing. This is just the first epic that we've worked on in what, just about an hour, and we've created all that code. We've written some test scripts so that as we build out new features, we can check to see are there any regression tests, are there any bugs that have crept back in or new bugs. We've got a test suite and we can continue to build out that test suite. We can even ask it, let's just keep those changes there and then say, are our test scripts, do our test scripts have sufficient coverage for safe flight? That's quite a big question to ask. I'm interested to know how it will review that. So your test scripts provide good code coverage, the core sensor modules integration, but there are some important limitations for safe flight. This is covered. What's missing? No test for real-time sensor fusion. All sensors working together in a flight loop. motor control logic. So do we have in there our ESCs? So let me just check in there in our docs. I don't think we have. It does say motor control. Let's have a look what else it says. Recommendations, add tests for these flight loop. Do we have code and tests for the DRV 8833 ESCs? Let's see if it says yes or no to that, because that's the thing that's going to make it actually fly. Test motors, no matches. You do not currently have a dedicated DR8833 driver module or unit integration test for the control of the code base. There we go. Would you like to generate? Oh yes. And include and update documentation after running the tests. There we go. It's so cool, isn't it? Now, what I would say about this isn't a tool for beginners, people who've not written a line of code themselves before, because how do you know the code that's been written is any good? Let's say run the tests. Let's see if we get that. That's good. It's run no failures. Let's actually look at the test to see, is the test any good? So dummy pin, dummy PWM. So it's simply just moving the motors forward. Assert equal, so just checking that the pin's correct. That's fair enough. And it's also testing out the PWM as well. That's also fair enough as a test. We can test this for real though, and we can tell it to update this for real hardware once we're happy and we've got to that stage. When the PCBs come on Tuesday, we can do that. There we go. So updated the README. Let's go and have a look at that change there. So we've got the motor driver module is included. We've also got module sensor drivers and the DRV8833. And remaining review of error handling for IMU, control motor integration, flight computer, and close epic. There we go. So it's even good. We've got like a to-do. So can you create a to-do file for outstanding tasks? Just want it to output me a nice to-do file so we can pick up where we left off with this when I come to this next time. There we go. So got to-do dot. So let's add those in. Let's keep all those changes. Added to-do and DRV8833 code. There we go. And we can then go back over to here, hit reload, and we should be able to see those new changes in there. So we've got the DRV8833, got our flight computer, progress and features, and we've also got that nice to-do file. So if I open that up as well, we should have some tickable lists of things that we need to do. So yeah, add integration test for the flight loop, add tests for the motor control, add tests for Bluetooth gamepad, add hardware in the loop for simulation tests and real-world validation. We'll definitely be doing that on Tuesday. And then documentation, update user and developer documentation for new motor driver and safety features. And again, I could keep going with this and keep iterating until I get bored. So I love the fact that you can get it to create all these things, and it will even run the tasks in the terminal for you and check the results of that as its output. Such a good feature. I do believe this is free as well, so if you've got free access to the ChatGPT, you'll just hit the limitation after a while, and you can then just change to like Claude or Gemini or some other one. So we can use that ChatGPT 5 preview as an example. Let's just do that. Add section on test coverage. Can you add a section on test coverage and safety verification in the README. So I'm using a completely different large language model now. I'm interested to know how this will handle the context switch, because this hasn't seen any of the previous stuff. Maybe it can look through all that in the agent mode. But yeah, very interested in to see how well that works. ChatGPT 5 is a little bit slower than ChatGPT 4. It does this sort of deep thinking mode, I think, by default. So you do have to wait a little bit longer for some of the answers. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's looked at ChatGPT 5 yet, but it's quite an improved update. Apparently it's very good with health as well. So if you have any sort of medical questions, it's good with that. There we go. Yeah, added comprehensive test coverage and safety validation section to the README. So let's just say updated README. Now the reason that I went to the effort of asking it to create the documentation in here, these epics and features, is if we want to build out that. So I don't know if we have a feature in there. Can you add a feature and story for the ESCs? DRB833. It means that we can come back to them and modify them and then get it to rerun and integrate. So it's quite a useful way of just remembering what it is you've asked it to do. And if a person was going to carry on these tasks rather than just an agent, they could also do that too. So they can see what the actual requirements were, the acceptance criteria of each of these, which is quite neat. So that's pretty cool. So we're always saying there, ChatGPT 5 is better, but not better enough for OpenAI to be happy. Copilot 365 is way better. So a lovely free update for my work stuff. There you go. Pretty cool, isn't it? And the fact you can actually just change the agent that you're using, you can change it midway through, which is pretty amazing. So there we go. Let's keep all those changes. And then let's just go and just update that again. So update, let's say added in features and stories for ESCs. Electronic speed controllers. There we go. And then let's just go once back over here, give that a reload. That's how to do. Let's have a look at our README. That's pretty good. Like that. Recommended safety mechanisms, pre-flight checks. Cool. So I think that's enough for today's show. I'm quite impressed with the amount of stuff we've been able to build out. We started with a completely empty folder, if you remember, and all this has been created in the past hour. So I'm very impressed with what we've been able to do there. Without actually writing a line of code ourselves, we are trusting the model and the code other people have clearly put out there. What is funny is when you go into a ChatGPT session and you ask it for an example piece of code and it points you back at code you've written yourself. That's quite funny. So I have been writing code over the past 5 years for MicroPython, so it does pop up in ChatGPT's model. Cool. So let's go back over to our slides here. And yes, if you've not joined our Discord community, you definitely want to consider doing that. It's completely free. Just head over to kevrobots.com/discord and you can get a free sign up link there. I think it just takes a couple of minutes for the email to come back from Discord. It's not anything to do with my systems. But yeah, there's a great community of people on there. I always delve into there and have a look what people have been building. So definitely share pictures of projects you're working on. And if you want to find some pictures I've been working on, I do post to all the social medias. So I'm on McAleer at threads.net. I'm on TikTok, KevMcAleer6. I'm on Instagram at KevMcAleer. I'm on X at KevsMac. I'm on Mastodon at kevsmac.mastodon@mastodon.social. I'm also on Blue Sky at kevsmac.bsky.social as well. So if you're not on any of those platforms, or if you are on any of those platforms, you're not following me, definitely give me a follow, say hi, and maybe show a project that you're working on currently. I've got so many projects on the go right now. There's just so many to share with you, but we'll get to that in a minute after the main piece there. So yes, if you want to join me, you can do this in a number of different ways. You can do a super thanks, which is the little thanks button that appears underneath the main player window in YouTube. There's a super chat if you're watching this live and you want to say thanks. You can hit the little dollar button there and do a little donation there. And if you want to do it a different way, there's the YouTube membership program. You can click on the join button once you've subscribed, and that just introduces like I think it's about a coffee a month kind of price. Or you can buy me a coffee using the Buy Me a Coffee platform. All those things are available if you go to kevrobots.com/coffee. All the links and everything you need to know is there. And let's say thank you to the people who've done exactly that. So hopefully that button, if I press that there, will go to the thing. I've had so many issues today with this. I'm not sure what it's playing at. Let me see if I can get it to play that. So should be that button there. I've not hidden it or anything, have I? Let's have a look. Don't think so. Right, let me just find the actual file and bring it up. That's really annoying that it's been misbehaving like this. Some of the buttons seem to work, and then other times it doesn't work at all. I wonder if it's the stream deck itself. No, because I'm pressing the button here. Go back to host. And then all of a sudden it'll just start working again, which is just way weird. Right, if I can't get that to work, we'll just have to wrap up on here, I think. Weird, because it's been working so well. Indeed, having a tricky time there, Ford. Cool, let's try that one more time and then press that. Nothing. Okay. Well, I would press the button there, but obviously that's not working today for some reason. I did actually restart my Mac before this session, just in case there was anything kind of stuck, because it was doing some quirky things before then. So I think it's actually the Ecamm software I'm using. They usually update this like on a weekly basis, so I'm sure there'll be a fix for that very, very shortly. Anyway, in the meantime then, what I will say is thank you to all the people who've sponsored the channel so far. You know who you are. I don't think any of the coffees had changed since last week anyway, and we've not gained or lost any subscribers or followers from last time, so there's that too. So what I will say then is YouTube will be recommending, pretty much when my face is here, a video for you to watch from the over 420 videos that we got now. It's quite a large backlog of videos anyway, and yes, it'll be recommend one of those. Definitely check that out. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I shall see you all next time. So thanks for watching, and I'll say bye for now.